Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Rabbit Hole. Hope you've had a good week and didn't get none on you, and I hope you still don't get none on you. I'm here with my buddy Canuck, and we're going to talk about the Southern California fires. It wasn't that long ago that we started this part did, and it wasn't that long ago that we started talking about these fires. And I guess it was about September. Malibu was burning like crazy. So now we've gone full circle. Yeah, back to Malibu, back to Palo Verdes. And what was the other Verdes that was burning or it was quaking or something? Yeah, all of that stuff, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a tar pit, and it burns pretty easily because of mismanagement, so some say, or because they didn't have water or they didn't have electricity to pump the water to the guys that needed the water. Who knows? I found it pretty interesting that 5 of the storage containers went empty within 2 days. What do you say? Put the comments down below. Anyway, we're going to talk about some interesting things that looking through the history and looking through some articles that will talk about how the Malibu fire and all the other fires are kind of interrelated to the fault systems in Southern California and the fault systems that we have on somebody's desk. Whose fault is it? It's all interrelated, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So where would you like to study there, Canuck? Start the study. Put the link in, and then I'll put it up.
So I'm going to explain how it got on all this. It actually started tonight since supper.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see where the current Palisades fire was. And now it's burning in Mandeville Canyon.
Yeah, it started that last night when I went to bed. Yeah. Started going northeast.
Yeah. So then I decided, well, I'm going to start looking into Mandeville Canyon to find out what I can find out about its history. So I went to one article and I started finding all sorts of interesting stuff.
All righty.
So that's the one I'm going to put in there first.
All righty.
Copy it. So here we go. Okay, copied. Copy.
I don't know where you're putting it to.
No, didn't do it. I gotta go back and click it again.
Whack it and stack it, baby. Yeah, what Canuck does is he'll post it in chat over here on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. We're also on Rumble. We're on YouTube. And we've got a lot of these articles or shows. You go ahead and check us out, Joe Slick Live.
This one is about 5 or 6 articles tonight. I bet we'll probably get 2 hours.
Okay. When to capture Malibu Canyon. All right, let me widen this out. There you go. History of Mandeville Canyon. I don't know why because of Mandeville,
Yeah. Now I'm just going to summarize the history part because I want to get into the part where the wildfires. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
So anyway, they are not. Yeah, I'm just going to summarize the first few.
Who's the Chingadera from?
Because it goes all the way back to. Yeah, it goes all the way back to 1769 in the Spanish explorers and the Spanish king at that time. And so he gave this land to which that's where they get the name for the
Sepulveda. Wow. Pretty cool.
So that was 1839. He was given that land by the governor of the Californias under Spain.
All right.
So eventually it switched over to Mexico. And then there's some other people that ended up with that land. Doesn't give all their names, but it talks about how the ranch land that was there included Mandeville Canyon, which they don't really know how Mandeville Canyon got its name. It says in there they don't know why they called it that. And then it gives more information. Talks about 1872, so I thought that was interesting because that was the same year as the Owens Valley quake. They sold their property.
Yeah. So what was the significance there?
Well, they sold it to a private U.S. Army Colonel Robert S. Baker, and it gives their history. And his wife was named Arcadia, which is where they get the Arcadia.
Wow. Okay.
Because Baker's owned a whole bunch of other land too, and one of them is where Arcadia is. So I thought that was interesting. So I found all sorts of fun stuff there.
It very much is.
And at this time, it wasn't called Mandeville Canyon, but they called it Casa Viejo Canon, or
Casa Viejo. Yeah. All right.
So that was like up to.
Well, there is a town called Vallejo.
Yeah.
In LA as well.
So I thought that was interesting. And then in 1904, Baker, who owned the land by then, and Jones formed the Santa Monica Land and Water Company and sold it to Robert C. Gillis.
Okay.
So this ends up tying into all these rich guys in the early 1900s who looked after the water that got to LA. So I thought that was interesting. Because of course they would like canyons, you know, it's like you need canyons to get water from here to there. So down here it talks about like how the Mulholland Drive, it puts that in there too.
Yeah, Mulholland, yeah.
Its name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from Mulholland. Wasn't he the one that was responsible for all the water diversion to LA?
Wasn't that guy that and all those people died up there in Santa Barbara because the dam broke or something? Or was it Mulholland that made
I think he was like the engineer that made
I think he was a great engineer, yeah. And they didn't do something right, and it collapsed and killed those people in a wash in LA. I think we watched that article, right? Or that documentary, right? Yeah, that was an interesting one. So that guy Mulholland, he worked to bring water down into Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah. And so I imagine he was looking at land that was in canyons, right? Because it'd be easy to bring water down through the canyons, I assume. It doesn't say that in here, but
or create a reservoir or something, yeah.
I assume. And he met all these people in that area because it talks about him here, like because Beverly Hills is right next to it, right? So all these famous people.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting, and then I started going down farther, and it talks about the 1932 Olympics. It was in LA. All the horse equestrian events were all in that same canyon because that's what it was. It was like a horse ranch and ranching canyon originally. That's what it was for. So when the Olympics were there in 1932, that's where all the equestrian events were in Los Angeles, in that same canyon.
The equestrian, so all the horse stuff was in Mandeville Canyon?
Yeah, and the polo fields were there too, where they did the polo events for all the aristocrats.
All right. All right. In 1932, huh?
So,
It's
so I kept going
4 years. 4 years, then it's supposed to be in LA again, right?
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought this was interesting.
It's gonna get canceled. It'll get canceled.
It's like an important place for the Olympics.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So then I kept going down, and then it started talking about all the major disasters that had hit that area. So in 38, there was a major flood hit that area. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Then it talked about that made it so everything that was going on there in the late 30s, way into the 40s, they didn't do anything because of the flood damage. But then they started doing a whole bunch of other stuff there, like later on in the 40s. So after that flood, they never used it for anything for a few years.
Was that in the Mandeville Canyon there was a flood?
Yeah, a big flood came down the canyon and wiped a whole bunch of stuff out.
All right.
Yeah.
Was it?
And what's funny is because that's where basically the 405 highway is.
I was going to say the 405. Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't there in 38. The 405.
Oh no.
Yeah, but so then it talks about all this other stuff that they were doing there in the 50s and all that, and then it keeps going down and like all the way. Then it starts talking about the fires that were there. So in the paragraph that's down towards the bottom of this whole article, it says there have been two noteworthy fires in recent Mandeville Canyon history. In September 1961, a large fire in Bel Air, which is right next to it, spread to Mandeville Canyon, burning no more than 2 homes in Upper Mandeville. But when I looked it up, it burned up a whole bunch of houses, like 480 houses in Bel Air. The second significant fire occurred in October 1978, when a large 2-mile wide brush fire erupted on Mulholland Drive and swept into Mandeville Canyon. Despite heavy Santa Ana winds of up to 50 miles per hour, the LA Fire Department prevented any homes from burning. Well, I thought that was interesting because of our study of I recognized that those years, 61 and 78, there were Santa Barbara quakes. And I said, well, that's interesting. So I said, I'm going to look into, because we mentioned those dates, but those were two of the ones we never went into full detail on, but I remembered them. So I said, I was going to do the most recent one. So that's what I started with. So then I said, I'm going to look up what was going on in 1978. So I just started with the wildfire first because I wasn't sure exactly where it was and what the name of it was. Mm-hmm. So I just went and I said, I'm going to look up 1978 wildfires in California. So when I did, the next article I put in there is like super detailed. I found it was the first thing that came up. So I was like flabbergasted when I read it. So I'm putting that in next. That should be in there now.
All right. The Agora Malibu Firestorm, 1978.
Yeah. And we're going to read most of this article because it's really good.
All right. In 1978, Agora Malibu Firestorm was a firestorm fueled by at least 8 significant wildfires in Los Angeles area. On October 23rd, 1978, at around noon, an arsonist started the fire, eventually burning 25,000 acres from Cornell to Broad Beach in Malibu. The first fire alarm in Agora was reported at 12 p.m., and at 2:30, the fire had reached the Pacific Ocean. 13 miles south of Malibu. It had been declared a level 2 maximum emergency by 1:57 or 2 o'clock. As the fire
Now,
spread through the.
I want to stop right here and say where
Okay, go ahead.
Agura is because it's important.
Agora?
Yeah, Agura, yeah, or Agura Hills, however they say it,
Mm-hmm.
is right next to where we just had the Kenna fire. It's right beside it.
Okay.
So
yeah,
these
Agora Hills is
arsonists
a
are
little
pretty
bit
good.
further east, no, right? Agora Hills is further east. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is where the Kenna fire was.
Yeah. As the first
thought that was
fires spread through the canyons in Santa Monica Mountains over the next 4 days, a total of 230 homes were destroyed in 1978 in Agora and Malibu, and the Los Angeles community of Mandeville Canyon to the east. At least 254 other structures were also destroyed. The fire contained on October 25th, controlled on October 27th. 136 engine companies, 28 camp crews, 8 bulldozers, 6 helicopters, and 6 fixed-wing air tankers helped fight this fire. Known as the Agora Malibu firestorm and the Mandeville Canyon fire, these two major fires were bolstered by winds as high as 60 miles an hour. In extremely dry conditions, residents in Agora evacuated to the shopping center next to Ventura Freeway in Agora Hills, where massive flames could be seen engulfing Castro Park. Damage caused the group of fires burning was estimated at $71 million in 1978, which, if I'm not correct, it was still high interest rates then. According to California officials, 3 people were killed and 50 were injured, according to the Los Angeles Fire Department. A 15-year-old Agora youth was arrested for starting the fire and sentenced to be confined to California Youth Authority until his 21st birthday. Arson investigators determined that he had used a lit cigarette wrapped in a matchbook to set the fire. This was the largest of several fires that set over a period of a week in the Agora Hills area. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that talks about the Mandeville Canyon fire next.
Okay, you can continue.
Yeah. The Mandeville Canyon fire began in arid Southern California and caused considerable harm to its citizens and infrastructure, resulting in over 200 destroyed homes and 3 fatalities as the fire burned through about 38,000 acres of land. So this is like crazy size. On Monday, October 23rd at 9:41 a.m., an uncontrolled brush fire in the Mulholland Drive region developed rapidly, and emergency officials declared a major emergency within about an hour after the initial report. Now, the fire situation. Various other blazes in Southern California accompanied this initial outbreak, heavily slowing down the Los Angeles Fire Department's suppression efforts as it stretched across 5 days. Beginning what is now known as the Agora Malibu fires, another brush fire began in the Elsinore, Paris region, which I don't know where that is. I'd have to. I never.
That's south.
And
that's south in off the 5 free. No, yeah, off the 15 freeway in Southern Cal, past Orange County, going into San Diego County. So it's Temecula area.
Yeah. Well, Temecula has a fire right now.
Yeah, it did. It started up.
So.
Yeah. It started up the other day.
That's quite the coincidence. So here we are, more coincidences. Yeah, a lot of coincidences. And erupted into a series of 7 brush fires in the span of 6 hours. This rapid development of fires, along with the initial Mulholland Drive fire, largely occurred because of the Santa Ana winds, an exacerbating force in the realm of wildfires. The winds peak in the cooler fall and spring seasons, where hot air encounters high pressure in the dry southwest and travels westward into the Southern California coast, blowing at a rate of about 40 miles per hour. As the Southern California area simultaneously saw a buildup of dry timber known as fuels while entering a dry and windy season, the development of wildfires was imminent. Once the fuels caught fire, the dry downslope Santa Ana winds fanned the flames as they grew at an exponentially fast rate, culminating in a series of wildfires throughout the region. Well, that sounds familiar. The fire department response, the fire department response, I thought this was friggin' nuts. That's exactly what's happening now. The Los Angeles County Fire Department dispatched 300 firefighters to manage the Mandeville Canyon blaze and ultimately faced a personnel shortage in the process. Off-duty officers in the region thus served as a supplementary addition to the firefighting effort. This labor shortage likely occurred due to the fire department's simultaneous response to the more powerful Malibu fires. It's the same thing all over again. For around 500 firefighters were sent to the Agora Malibu region, where the wildfire had stretched toward the ocean for about 20 miles. As the brush fires in Mandeville Canyon grew powerful enough to prompt an emergency response, Battalion Chief Gary Henry ordered what is known as a full response to manage the nearby conflagration, sending 5 engines, 4 camp crews, 2 helicopters, 2 patrol trucks, and 2 tractors. This circumstance called for a swift response, and within minutes, Chief Henry also called for tanker planes and additional engines to manage the fire's challenging pace. Burning through about 23,000 acres of land, the Mandeville fire moved rapidly and would reach the Pacific Coast Highway in a matter of 2 hours. So that was like super.
It's moving pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, traveling a distance of about 36 miles.
In 2 hours.
36 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, the winds are pretty good here, man.
And that's probably what it's going to do again starting tonight. I bet that's exactly what it's going to do. And they're all in the panic there now because
the winds are
they're running out of resources.
Yeah, they're picking up. Yeah, they're picking up again.
It's supposed to go for 4 days starting tonight. With
we've got winds here. I'm inland of them, but we've got winds here probably 20 on average, and then it will gust a little higher. And the third day after California had it, boy, did we get hit with some powerful winds. So however long that took, maybe 2 days. So I'm gearing up to kind of say, okay, well, it's happening here. It'll hit us when. So it appears that those super high winds are 2 days away for us because the weather travels from the west to the east.
Nevada's supposed to be getting big winds right now.
Oh, that means we got it. I'm an hour from Vegas, hour and a half.
So, but anyway, this next line I thought was even more good in this last section.
Go ahead, bud.
Additionally, the scramble for residents in the area to evacuate proved to complicate the firefighting effort, as many firemen reported that crowds of inhabitants and curious spectators swarmed the area of greatest concern. Sunset Boulevard also became congested with traffic, serving as a potential hazard as emergency vehicles entered the scene. So it's the same thing that happened in Malibu.
Yeah, I think if they made Sunset Boulevard a one-way street that moved out of Malibu towards Los Angeles, I think that would solve a lot of that problem. The fact that you got cars on both sides, and then you only have certain 2 lanes on either one. In some places, you only have one.
And that's what you need to have for a tsunami evacuation route too.
Yeah, a route.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
So
but
anyway,
Sunset Boulevard's
so
a little bit higher, you know.
yeah, it keeps going here, and
Go for it.
it's like a carbon copy of what's happening now. Results: weather conditions improved the following day, October 24th, with lower temperatures and fog beginning to develop. The crew thus worked under a more favorable climate, and by 7 a.m. on Wednesday, October 25th, the LAFD announced full containment of the wildfire, where the crew succeeded in creating a fire break by digging around the fire's perimeter.
That's 2
It was
days. Yeah,
yeah,
from October
extensively under
23 to October
control.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fully extinguished by Friday that week. Well, see, that's not happening now.
No.
It's
And
probably going to be way worse.
I mean, LA just lost its
Like
tax
I'm
base.
beginning to wonder if any of these government people read their own history, because how would they not know that this happened before in '78? Like,
Well,
that's not that long ago.
people should have had the blue roofs, man. People should have had the blue roofs. You see the blue roofs all over China. You see them all over Russia. You don't see it here too often, but you should have the blue roofs because, yeah, you know, it might have not happened. You know, something about them
And
blue roofs.
the community reaction is good too, because it sounds like exactly what's happening right now. So I'm going to read it too.
All right. According to Mandeville Canyon
According
residents, go ahead. The LAFD took dangerously prolonged approach to managing the initial brush fires. Witnesses citing the lack of manpower, and many emergency officials admitted that their resources were simply too limited to move more rapidly. For instance, Chief England recalled that when we saw the speed it was moving, we tried to release equipment, but we spread it too thin. As the fire continued to burn October 25, fire officials thus criticized their city government for issuing personal cutbacks through Prop 13. Prop 13 has saved Southern Cal. This bullshit. The initiative, which limited property taxes through the reallocation of funds from emergency services, claimed that the LAFD delayed response could be attributed to their shortage of manpower. Bullshit. They have less than 2%. 2% was their goal, out of the population. For every 1,000 people that have 2 firemen, right? And they have, LA's got 4.7 million, right? But they don't have enough engines. There's 100 engines right now that are in need of repair. So those engines were offline. And the reason they're offline is because they don't have mechanics to fix them. Because
in this article, it says they had 500 at Malibu, and
500
300 at this other one.
Yeah,
that's like way more than what they got now. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated for sure. But the truth of the matter is, it burned a lot of rich people's houses. And not so rich people, because people had their houses from the 1930s, right? They're paid off, right? Not in some of these canyons. These are very, very old houses. And the people who are living in these houses don't have resources to rebuild. They don't have the income to get a loan to rebuild. So they're going to have to sell their piece of land for nothing. And that's just a kick in the balls, because you can't value that piece of land without a house on it. So it's going to be a barren land. Plus, you got to clean it. That costs, oh my God. They're going to be taking where are they going to put all this stuff that you got to scrape the land with? Might as well fill Mandeville Canyon, or build an island offshore and dump it in the ocean, right? What are they going to do with all this stuff? I mean, seriously.
Well, now it's
5,000 homes, or I think it's up to 10,000 now. 5,000 structures on the one fire as of yesterday. That's phenomenal. The video is incredible. It's a moonscape. Not only that, it didn't just burn the people's houses, right? It burned all their jobs. Lots of small businesses and medium businesses out there wiped out in some of these areas. This is an astronomical cluster, right? And then they had the big old planes dropping fire retardant water, but they had to stop because the winds got too high. And then when you see the helicopters doing it the next day, you can see the water come down and then just almost vaporize as it gets to the top of the fire. It's hardly doing any work. And they were dumping, I was watching for pretty good 1 or 2 hours where
and they were just dumping
every 2 minutes. They were going and filling up their 450 gallons and coming back. And they had all these helicopters, 5 or 6 helicopters doing this in rotation. And it was a 2-minute round trip, in the Mandeville area, because they're going up to whatever lake that was. Starts with a C, but I forget. But up in the northern Mandeville. Oh my God, this is just it's a cluster. It's a
and in that
the Encino Reservoir, yeah, the Encino Reservoir. So the helicopters are going there back to the canyon, and they were dumping it, and man, houses were still going up. Oof. Just it's just really.
And at
really
the
bad.
very bottom of this, under the references, there's a orange table that has all the fires listed right up to now.
Oh,
see everyone in California.
Wow,
from pre-2007 going up.
That's Orange County.
Yeah,
wow.
We're going to use this list later.
Okay, bud.
Not right now. Because I didn't like when I started reading this, and then I was scrolling down looking at the reference. I said, well, this has got all the friggin' most recent fires, like right up to now, on this list. So I can click on any one and read about it and where it was.
I remember
it started
late 70s, it had to be mid 70s. Let me see if it's listed in here. Or Gore, Malibu, 78. Wow, I didn't know that. Marble Cone. I don't know where that is.
See the Laguna one. We talked about that one before, 1970. That was right before Silmar.
Yes, sir.
The Laguna one.
Yeah, back in those days, we had what they call stage 1, 2, and 3 smog alerts. You couldn't go outside. So, and they only have one of the sunshine.
When I started looking at this list, because I said, 92, 91, and 92. Well, that was right before Landers. And I said, well, look what's going on there. And then 93, I said, well, look. That was the year before Northridge. And Laguna hit again in 93. Because there's been multiple big Laguna fires. So I started, because once I saw all these in one thing, I could look at them and match the years with the quakes really easy. Yeah. So I thought, that's nuts. But anyway, I don't want to get way out because we'd be into this for.
Yeah, I know. And I'm letting you do it. You just handle your business, son.
We're going to come back to these now that I know that it's in this reference thing is in this list at the bottom. Because they even have Palisades, Eaton, and Hearst on there already on that list. So that's So I like updated cool ones. And they have all the 2024 ones. And look how many there were in 2024. So that should tell you something there too. And look at all the ones in 2021 when we had all the craziness going on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
too.
And 2020 is even more crazy.
Windy and Fawn.
So when all the big quakes were happening and Ridgecrest in 2019. So I thought it was good because that was just a California list. So, but anyway, so now going back into this, so I said, well, I remembered there was a quake in Santa Barbara in '78. So that's the next one I want to bring up the wiki on that.
All righty, bud.
Copy it. Because if we hadn't done that study on all the Santa Barbara quakes, I wouldn't have remembered all the dates to quote from the three fires when I.
Yeah, you do have them. You do have a good memory.
So there, it's in there.
Going to work, Luke, this evening?
Yeah, and about 1 o'clock in the morning.
All right. And here we go. Santa Barbara earthquake. All right. Go ahead there, Canuck.
Yeah, so I'll read the first part of it. The 1978 Santa Barbara earthquake, also known as the Goleta earthquake. I got in a big discussion on doing the aside to this the other night from a lady from Santa Barbara because she was telling me about all these quakes she was there for. She lived there for 50 years. And so she was telling me all the ones she remembered and when they were and what was going on then. She was in one of the other chats I was on. She lives in the Pacific Northwest now. When I started throwing all these dates, she said, oh, I remember this one. She was saying, and she said it felt like this. And she said it felt way bigger than these other ones. And she says, I still have family that live there. She was telling me all this stuff because the things that happened in the past year, she said, by what her family said, it's very similar to what it was in 78. So I thought that was interesting. And so anyway, so reading more of this, with its epicenter beneath the Santa Barbara Channel, the magnitude of the earthquake was estimated at 5.1, according to the Southern California Seismic Network. However, it may have been as high as a 5.6. This lady thought it was way more than that.
Right.
How it shook. That's what
what was the depth? Depth is 8.8 kilometers, or 5.5 miles. Yeah, 5.5 miles. So, all right.
So there were no deaths from the event. However, 65 people sustained mid to moderate injuries. Well, then it gives the blurb about the Santa Barbara Channel and how it connects with the transverse ranges block and all that, which you already know. So we talked about that before. And it says the faults beneath the channel trend mainly west-east and are mainly thrusts with associated folding. And then Santa Barbara was previously hit by a much larger earthquake in 1925, which we actually talked about that one with in one of the previous shows, with estimated magnitude between 6.5 and 6.8, causing 8 million damage in 1925 and killing 13 people.
Yeah, that one was a 6.5 or 6.8, somewhere between there.
Yeah, so it was quite big.
Yeah. Well, understanding kind of the setting here of what happens. Remember, we've talked about transverse ranges, the transform boundary, and the transpressional character associated with the Big Bend, and how San Andreas kind of jogs left, and then as it goes north, kind of like in a S kind of jog. That's important because that's where all this compressional or transpressional stuff is happening, and we get the thrust faults that way. All the Santa Barbara, all the way to the Inland Empire, and in San Bernardino, which is a span of probably 125 miles, is all affected by this bend into San Andreas, and all the way north to near Bakersfield. But this area is really key, and because there's these tons of fires, your supposition is saying that the fires are virtually telling us something tectonically, in your opinion. And
Yeah.
you surmise that because you see in the historical record both fires and earthquakes seem to be happening
At
at
the
the same
time.
time. Not just any fires, but major fires.
Yep.
You know, so that's a little bit of
The Yeah,
qualification too.
quake we're talking about here was August, but those other fires we were just talking about in '78 were right after, so they're pretty close together in time.
Yeah. So, and
So that's pretty.
we've heard of
interesting.
plants, in Southern California that they just combust. They just start fires, and they don't know why.
Spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, I don't. Instantaneous combustion, or whatever you want to call it, and it's very odd. But that might be really because I've never seen a plant just all of a sudden light on fire. It
Well,
might.
the article we're gonna finish with, the guy talks about that. So he's
Okay.
gonna explain it.
So the rocks themselves, there can be gas leaking, and then these things combust, and bam, boom. Uh, Rocks could spark, like flint. It can grind on and spark or blow up or whatever. Or there can be just an electronic, because when it's dry, there's kind of an electrostatic, in the air. Like your hair stands on end a little bit, and you touch something, bam, you get shocked. So there's a lot of those kind of factors, So if there's gas being released because the faults are moving, and then you get these, static electricity, boom, So there is kind of a thought process that they could be, related. Now, they were very worried about this particular fire that we're having now getting into an area where they have gas lines, natural gas lines that go through the canyons. I don't know what they're going to do if it ever gets to that, because this thing it'll get way worse. You ever seen natural gas underground explode? Holy smokes, man. You talk about creating a hole. And then if that does blow up, hey man, it could start off a bigger earthquake. And one fault popping another fault, Oops. It ain't just one thing happening. One's a fire, but then you get a double component. Oh man. And wait till the rains happen. Right? This whole area is going to be major flood.
The guy that's in the final article, he mentions that too, about what happens after all.
You live there 50 years, you're going to know the cycle of things, right? So this is just firsthand knowledge of what I've experienced. That's why I say, wow, but stuff that we've studied and stuff that, you bring up in these articles, some of it's from the wiki, some of it's not, but I think it's interesting that, or wiki can be, encyclopedia as well. It's all wherever it's from. So the periodical doesn't really matter. It's bringing your attention to say, hey, look, guys and gals, this stuff happens. Don't get none on you. And so you want to talk more about the 78 quake of Santa Barbara?
I'm just gonna say like where the worst damage was. Which
Go ahead.
Was Goleta. That's where felt it the first, and that's where this lady I was talking to the other night, which I didn't know that it was going to lead into this, but it just happened to do. So it happens. So it fit in with this, which I wasn't expecting it to when I started all the stuff.
Right
there after supper, but because she said where she lived, which was close to Goleta, that it felt way worse there. So that's what it says in this wiki description about it too. And it just said they know it was offshore, but they don't know exactly which fault it was on, or exactly. They have an estimated location, but for the epicenter, but they don't know which actual fault it was on. They know it's thrust by the motion it
Mm-hmm.
made from the seismo, because it explains the seismo that was closest to it was in University of California at Santa Barbara, and that talks about the damage and stuff. But so I said, well, that's good. Same year, almost same time as the big fires in 1978. So then I went back and I looked at the original article there from the Mandeville history, and I said, well, now I'm going to look up 61 and see what was going on in 61. So, because I didn't know what the name of the fire was, but when I did the search for 1961 California fires, it came up, because it just said a fire in the Mandeville Canyon, but it didn't say what the name of it was. So I just did a search, and the first one that came up was the Bel Air fire. So I'll put that one in there, which is basically right next to it. So there, it's in there now.
I have it up already for you.
Yeah. So I'll just start reading it. I'm not going to do the whole thing of this one. It's
You just read what you
really
read.
short. Yeah. The Bel Air fire was it's a disaster that began as a brush fire on November 6th, 1961, in the Bel Air community of Los Angeles. The fire destroyed 484 homes and burned 6,090 acres. At least 200 firemen were injured, with mostly eye injuries due to the smoke and flying embers. The fire was fueled by strong Santa Ana winds. So here we go again. There were multiple celebrities affected by the fire. Actors Dennis Hopper and Brooke Hayward, Burt Lancaster, Joan Fontaine, and Zsa Zsa Gabor. Comedian Joey Brown, Nobel laureate chemist Willard Libby, composers Lucas Foss and Conrad Salinger, and writer Aldous Huxley all lost homes in the fires. Others that fought flames before they evacuated were former Vice President Richard Nixon, actor Robert Taylor, film producer Keith Daniels, and orchestra leader Billy Vaughn. The fire's precise cause was not determined, but it was believed to be accidental. As a result of the Bel Air fire, Los Angeles initiated a series of laws and fire safety policies. These included the banning of wood shingle roofs in new construction and one of the most stringent brush clearance policies in the U.S. The Los Angeles City Fire Department produced a documentary, Designed for Disaster, about the wildfire, narrated by William Conrad. It called the densely packed homes nestled on hillsides covered in dry brush a serious problem in fire protection, even under the best of conditions. So this was 61, and then you had all the stuff happen in 78. So apparently people aren't learning anything from all these things. But
You can go to the 2017. You go to the 2017 Skirball fire, and that's in the same neighborhood. It's a wildfire that burned a Bel Air neighborhood in North Los Angeles, and one of multiple fires that broke out across Southern Cal on December 2017. Fire burned 422 acres of land and slopes of Sepulveda Pass on the east of Bel Air, causing a closure of Interstate 405. And it would parallel with Sepulveda Boulevard, a major traffic artery in the city. Skirball Culture Center, Bel Air Country Club, Getty Center, Santa Monica Malibu Unified District, and various private schools were closed as a result. University of Southern Cal, UCLA, and Santa Monica College and Mount St. Mary's University evacuated from its Brentwood campus to downtown Los Angeles. The fire destroyed 6 structures and damaged on December 12th and 10th. Damaged 12. On December 10th, about 1, all evacuation orders and the road closure of Skirball fire was lifted as the containment of the wildfire increased to 85%. And on December 15th, reported the Skirball fire had been contained. Didn't knock it down, but it got contained.
So you just
That fire
talked about
started by illegal cooking fire.
2017.
Yep.
December.
That's what I'm talking about.
Guess what happened? Guess what happened September 2017?
I don't know.
You had
Northridge?
the 2 Mexico quakes, 8 and 7. No, 2017.
Yeah, 8/17, yeah.
You had the 2 big Mexico quakes, 8 and 7, back to back, all in September.
Yeah. They called this one
but nothing's related.
Yeah, right. And they said, this is interesting here. It said the December 12th Skirball fire was caused by illegal cooking fire in a homeless encampment within the pass. That's what Los Angeles's fire captain is not allowed to say. Did you realize that? She said she can't say those things. That it was an illegal encampment, homeless encampment. You know, those are illegal. You can't start fire anywhere you want. You have to be in the right place. So that's what I mean by illegal. So far, wow, that's crazy. During the fire of 17, the LAFD employed drones to help them combat the wildfires for the first time. And there were drones in this fire, and people were saying, there's a drone out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because if you were listening to the scanners, they'd say, because they'd say on the thing, somebody says there's a drone up here, or called it in or whatever. And then
one of the planes hit a drone too.
Fire truck that's there would try and find out with dispatch if they had one up there. And eventually
one of the fire planes hit a drone in this one that's happening right now too.
Yeah, that's the one of the 2 from Quebec, the scooper ones, which I don't know why they don't have scooters, because we have like 8 billion of them. We sell them all over Europe too. These same ones.
They lease them. I don't know why. You know where they lease them there in California, but to do the maintenance on them, they fly them here to where I'm at. My airport has them.
Yeah, but these aren't the Canadian ones. The Canadian ones are made in Quebec.
I don't know, but they maintenance them here.
Yellow and red.
The big old yellow ones. Yeah, they're flying up and down here. They were maintenance them like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Well,
maybe
the Quebec people must be doing the maintenance on them there then, because that's
maybe
the deal. Because they're sending more, and all the maintenance crews are coming with them from Quebec and Ontario, because they have them both in Quebec and Ontario, but they use them like all over.
What's interesting?
The same ones have been sold to Israel, Greece, and Czech Republic, and a bunch of other European countries.
Yeah, this 1978 fire, the Skirball fire, that happened right where our fire is today. Then you go up and you remember the one that was due north that's happening right now. I don't remember the city in it. Right up here in the pass. And then there was like off the 14, there was that other one that was a woman's name. The current fires, the Newhall Pass, basically up 14. And those fires, the Silmar and all that, it's interesting. There was the Rye fire, the Creek fire, and then the bigger Thomas fire, which went into Ventura and all of that. I know you can't.
Well, see, we could go back and do all these individual quakes that we've talked about already, and find out what else was going on with wildfires and all that, and see if it all matches up.
See, this is 1978, right here. It looked very, very reminiscent, right?
Pretty
Well,
similar.
what was happening in 1978 earthquakes? Do we know?
Well, no, because we never looked. I don't think we looked that year up in detail. We did 1925 and a couple other ones, but I don't think we did 78. I remember we did 79 because that was Imperial Valley big quakes. So that would have been the year after all this crazy stuff was happening in Los Angeles County area. Imperial Valley was the next year. So
All right. I got it out here. Share this tab. Let's look at 1978, January. Anything on the west side, right? We'll look at those. There's an Argentina had a 6. And we go into February. Nothing. March. What year was this? That was in December, right? Yeah, December. So what led up to it here, huh? Mexico Guerrero had a 6.4. The Curals went apeshit, completely apeshit. There's 6.7, 6.6, 6.8, 7.5, 6.8, 7.6, 7.1. All in March.
yeah, maybe we did do 78 because it was leading into the Imperial Valley quake in 79. So we probably did do 78.
Panama 6.1. Kodiak Island 6.6. May. Adrena Island 6.7. June. Canada, Vancouver had a 6.1. There's Greece 6.4. July. Guatemala 4.9. August. Chile 6.3. Santa Barbara Channel 5.1. Look at that. 1978. Santa Barbara Channel comes in with a 5.1. That's the one you were talking about, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
The lady I talked to.
Yeah. Costa Rica. Costa Rica had a yeah, it is the same one you're talking about. Costa Rica had a 7.0. So all this happened right before the major fire in December. Oaxaca ends up with a 7.7 in November. In December, there were nothing. So that's pretty interesting. We get a Santa Barbara fire, and then 3 or 4 months later, we get a pretty good fire. Wow. Right?
That's crazy.
I mean, that's no joke. Right? Can't. Yeah, this one happened December, yeah. December 17, 2017. Wait, what are we looking at? 1978. What about December 17?
And then we did 61, which I want to finish with that first.
Okay, bud.
Before we do any.
Yeah.
So that fire was in November, the Bel Air fire. And that went into Mandeville Canyon too in November 61. And also that same year, because I wanted to see if Santa Barbara was acting up that same year too. Well, when I looked it up, it was. And it had a 4.1 on October 20th, 1961. So once again, it was just before this big fires broke out.
Right. And
So
you know, the Santa winds kick up between September and January.
Yeah.
And lately they've been kicking up later in the year because of the offset of El Nino, La Nina stuff. On that article you posted for 2017, I'm in the 1961 you posted. I think that's pretty interesting. Then the 2017 Bel Air fire. That was the fire that I was talking about. So it's repetitive. And what was happening for you? I mean, you're right now talking about the 1961 quakes. Is that what you were looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't look at those yet. Let me grab those 1961.
And
photos.
what was interesting when I looked into that Santa Barbara quake
Uh-huh.
in 61,
Okay.
they said that they felt it the same in Huntington Beach. Because if you do a search, it comes up with the same timestamp for a Huntington Beach one that they say was 1 kilometer off the coast.
All right.
And it's at the same time as this Santa Barbara one that they also located.
That's interesting.
So I thought that was freaky. So
Well,
I said it's two different quakes felt both Santa Barbara and Huntington Beach at 4.1. But one of them, when I looked it up, says that one was like 2 kilometers southwest of Huntington Beach. And the other one says it was like offshore Santa Barbara. So I thought that was interesting. What's the connection between those two?
Well, in 1960,
I never went in.
Yeah, what we can 1961, we can look at those quakes if you want. What led up to those?
We can do that. See what happens. But they say it was only a 4.1. But why did they feel it both in Huntington Beach?
But the fire was 1961 December, am I correct? The Bel Air?
Yeah, and this quake that appeared both on USGS at both places, Huntington Beach,
November,
Santa Barbara at the same time. 4 point. Yeah, November. So it would have been right after, or no, October 20th. So the quakes would have happened right before the fire, which was November 6th. So I thought that was wild.
Right.
So you're getting them all this weird stuff happening right close together.
Right, let's look at here. So we got Adriatic Islands in January, 6.5. Japan went crazy. Honshu. I think that's a 72637067. That's all Japan. In February, the Kurils went 69636061. Fox Islands did a 6.1 in Alaska. Japan did a 7.5 as well. Damn. Japan and the Kurils are very connected.
But if you remember the quake swarms have been at Santa Barbara the last year or so, they always feel them at Huntington Beach. So see, the same thing happened in 61.
Well, I think there's a fault that goes out there. The Santa Barbara Channel fault. I think we've talked about some of those faults, right?
Yeah. So like this.
The Adriatic Islands again, 6.1. Northern Mariana. Okay, that didn't matter. El Salvador had a 6. What's this? Xinjiang. It's not the same one?
Yep.
No, it's not. Xinjiang is off to the left. Right. No, it's not. It's not the same one. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's definitely not the same one. Out in May. Chile had a 6.1. Quito 6. Nicaragua 6.2. Baja California popped in with a 6 in May. In June, Ethiopia was bouncing around. How interesting 61. That is. Yeah, Ethiopia, Amra region, 6.2 and a 6.0.
Well, girls was going off, so you should find South Alaska, Tristan da Cunha, and South Chile. Same year. That's what it's doing.
Yeah. Guatemala, 6.0. Colombia, 6.2. And I don't know where that is. July.
I did find a study of all the swarms in.
There's Vanuatu.
Red Sea and
Vanuatu's already
been since
1966. 6.6.
I haven't read about it.
August. So you said October, so we're already in August. Kurils had a 6.5. Peru 7.6. Peru 7.2. Peru 7.5. So that Peru hasn't hit yet in today's thing. Honshu had a 6. Man, Japan just being pummeled. Japan's trying to crawl out of some extreme winter weather right now. Big snowstorms. Kenai Peninsula got a 6. Valenzuela 6.1.
Kenai Peninsula, South Alaska.
Yeah.
So there's the limit line again.
Yeah. Bolivia 6.5. Now we're into October. Chile Concepcion had a 6.6. Argentina 6.2. And that's it. November. Hokkaido again 6.5. The DR comes in with a 6. There's your connection to the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And then December, what is it? Oh, November 6th is when that fire happened. So
yeah.
Chile had a 6.7 in
Wow.
December. Rat Islands had a 6.5 in December. And Chile had a 6.1 in December. So can we say that there's always a connection with Alaska and Central America? There's always a connection with Alaska and South America.
Yeah.
One I didn't see was the Atlantic, and another one I didn't see was Hawaii. And also I didn't see anything. Oh, well, there is Australia, the Bismarck Sea. Okay. I was going to say Australia, but there's, New Australia.
Bismarck Sea is Indo, but
yeah, none
PNG.
of that. PNG area, right? Yeah, PNG, unfortunately.
And 1961 would have been the year after the 9.5 Chile quake, which was in 60.
Yep.
All right.
And I know because I started doing the study, Tristan da Cunha was going crazy with eruptions from 61 to 63 before the Alaska 1964 big one happened, and then it shut down. So I thought that's interesting because it had something like 56 eruptions and all these big quakes out in Tristan da Cunha Island after the 9.5 Chile in 1960. So it's crazy stuff.
Did list of volcanic eruptions in Iceland? Was Iceland erupting?
But in 61, I don't know. I'd have to look and see what.
Yeah, Ask Joe was doing it in 1961. Trolladignia as well. Astra Caldera. Well, that's interesting. I don't know much about the Astra. Isn't that the biggest volcano?
No, but it had a big.
It has a big lake in the middle.
Yeah, 1875 was the last really big eruption. It's rumbled and had problems since then, but they weren't like official big eruptions. So it was acting up then in 61.
Yeah. It refers to a complex of nested calderas. It's not just one volcano, it's multiple.
Yeah, Ramblin put in for this past year the Malibu 4.7, which was September 12th, which when we started talking about all these faults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's when
and there was a fire in Malibu in September.
Yeah. So see, it's like, I don't know.
Astra erupted. Get this. Astra erupted on the 26th of October, 1961, and December 5th, 1961. in that
So
winter?
I just find it funny that we look into this stuff. It starts with one thing and it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. It just keeps going.
Right.
And it's so we just happen to talk about it, and all this crazy stuff happens, and find all these other things. Because I wasn't expecting to find all this stuff when I started looking tonight. I just wanted
Yeah,
to know about
VEI
that
2
canyon.
was ASTRA in 1961, December 5th. And what was the other date we were looking at? 30? What was it? What year? 61. Oh, 78 was the other one.
Yeah, 78 was the other one.
Hmm. So ASTRA's last eruption was
Like
December
we're
5th,
only doing this with like 2 or 3 dates, and you're finding all this crazy connections.
right?
It's just nuts. That's like the same
Well,
thing every time.
And December 5th, 1961 is the last time ASTRA erupted, by the way.
But it wasn't
It
like
erupted
an
in
official big eruption.
Didn't we just talk about 1938?
Thought it was 31.
38, we talked
30
about the flood that
33.
hit
No, the flood in 38.
Mandeville Canyon.
Yeah, 1938. Well, guess what? ASTRA erupted then too.
Oh, interesting.
What
That's
about
interesting.
19? What about 1926? Did anything happen in 1926 in LA?
Well, you'd have to go back and look and see if what was it, La Nina seasons, or because why would it be flooding in SoCal, right? So you'd have to look at that too. Like I imagine it was in the winter months. I never looked to see what the date was for the 1938 flood, but I assume it in Mandeville Canyon. I assume it was in the winter. I don't think it said the date. I think it just said 1938.
I don't know.
You'd probably find it if you dug for it. Because it wrecked a bunch of stuff. So that would have been 6 years after they had the Olympics and had the equestrian events.
So
polo event.
1938 flood, LA floods.
Yeah. I imagine it would show up there.
Exceeded 100 people in the floods caused an estimated 70 million damage. 5,600 homes were destroyed. Portions of the LA River during March of 1938 flood, and how it has changed over the years.
So it was spring then,
Yeah.
according to that.
So let me see. 1938 El Nino. 1938. Yeah.
Didn't even find that.
Okay, the 1938 flood was not El Nino season.
Oh.
The strongest El Nino occurred in 1997 and 98. Not really, but yeah. 31 inches of rain. Yeah.
Oh, Eden's asking in chat about the
Oh, I'm sorry.
huge fall open in Ethiopia. Well, it's been going for a long time because when I looked up Fentali, they have quake swarms listed going way back, and I found a study that lists all the ones in Egypt and the Red Sea from 1960 to 2017. I found the study, but I haven't gone into it to find out when, because I think it said there was 126 or 128. I can't remember the exact number. Big quake swarms in Ethiopia and the Red Sea area from 1960 to 2017. And that all started for me looking up Fentali quake swarms, and I found all this stuff and studies on them and whatever, and then I can match them up with quakes. And so I haven't gone into that study in detail, but I bet I can match up all those swarms they have listed for whatever it would be, 60 to 2017. So that would be 40 for 57 years, all in that study that I haven't looked into. I bet I can match it all up and go backwards on my same line and find stuff. And didn't we do the last episode too? That I think Ethiopia lines up with SoCal too. So it's freaking crazy.
I think it was close enough.
What on the world map?
Yeah, I think so. Didn't we do that in the last episode or another one?
Letterman line, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Going like directly east-west.
Yeah, Los Angeles is on the what parallel line is that?
Yeah,
34 north. Yeah, 34 north. Yeah, LA's on 34 north.
Because we haven't done the big article about Malibu history of fires yet. So I want to do that. Make sure.
Yeah, basically Cairo and Israel is pretty close. 34 north. $34, $32, $33, $34 north. Yeah, Tripoli, Lebanon. Then it goes right through Tunisia and North Carolina. Anyway. Yeah, that was that one. The African one, it's not straight across. It was diagonal. And you were coming out of where? Coming out of Nepal, right?
Yeah. Yep. It wasn't right on, if I remember right, but it was really close.
Yeah, that bugger is on the 27th parallel. But if you go, because we went diagonally from Everest to the Ethiopian quakes.
Didn't that line run right into the South Sandwich Islands too?
Hold on, I'm having a little trouble with
Great
it.
Passage or something like that.
It may have, yeah.
Yeah, that because we did more than one. More than one line.
It went through Chile. Yeah, like virtually 30th parallel. Yeah.
But I don't want to. We better not.
Yeah, we got to get off this. Yeah, stop sharing. We get all distracted.
I want to finish with that. Yeah, with the wildfire article there that I did in 2018.
All right, we're still on it.
Yeah. So I got to put. Did I send you the link for that one at first, or did I? I can't remember. The case for letting Malibu burn.
No, you didn't send that yet.
I didn't send that yet.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry there, Flutter Girl.
We'll put her in. But it basically summarizes everything we've talked about with the fires so far tonight. And he ties it in and has all history of Malibu on fire going way back into the 1800s and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Share screen.
And he explains why it does what it does and everything in it.
Well, explain to what his idea is here. The case for letting Malibu burn. Many of California native ecosystems evolved to burn. Modern fire suppression creates fuels that lead to catastrophic fires. So why do people insist on rebuilding in the fire belt? And you can go on from there.
Yeah. So
That's the name of the article, anyway. By was it Russell McCarthy? No.
yeah.
By
Well, this guy's
Longreads.
adding
Yeah.
to this article, I think, from
From Longreads, December 4th, 2018. We have to tell everybody where it's from because we're, it's Mike Davis, Ecology Fear, Metropolitan Books, September 1998, 20 minutes. All right.
Yeah. So now I'm not going to read every single thing in this
Sure.
because we'd be here till
Just the ones that popped out to you after you read it earlier.
Yeah. So in this, it starts. I'm going to read a few lines. Late August to early October is the infernal season in Los Angeles. Downtown is usually shrouded in acrid yellow smog, while heat waves billow down Wilshire Boulevard. Outside air-conditioned skyscrapers, homeless people huddle miserably in every available shadow. And then he says, across the harbor,
I eat because it's hot.
Yeah. So he's basically saying it's super hot when he gives all these examples. And then third paragraph down, he goes, 30 miles away, the Malibu coast, where hyperbole meets the surf, basks in altogether different weather. The temperature is 85 degrees Fahrenheit, when 20 degrees cooler than downtown. So this is why everybody's obsessed with Malibu. So he basically
and Malibu's
explained
beautiful
all this
too.
stuff.
Or
Yeah.
was.
It was.
Yeah. So then down here a little ways, he starts talking about all the famous fires that have been in Malibu because he gives like a whole big thing. So when he talks about 1993 in there, right at the first, which there was massive fires in Malibu in 93 that we'll talk about down farther. So he talks about a bunch of this other stuff, and then he gives like famous things that have been burned up there. So he put the notorious Hotel St. George, for instance, experienced blazes in 1912, 52, and 83. So it's crazy stuff. And then in the next paragraph, he says, Malibu, meanwhile, is the wildfire capital of North America and possibly the world. Fire here has a relentless staccato rhythm, syncopated by landslides and floods. The rugged 22-mile-long coastline is scourged on the average by a large fire, 1,000 acres plus, every 2.5 years. And the entire surface area of the western Santa Monica Mountains has been burnt 3 times over in the 20th century. So in the 1900s.
At least one time every decade, a blaze in the chaparral grows into terrifying firestorms, consuming hundreds of homes in an inexorable advance across the mountains to the sea. Since 1970, 5 such holocausts have destroyed more than 1,000 luxury residences and inflicted more than $1 billion in property damage. Some unhappy homeowners have been burned out twice in a generation. And there are individual patches of coastline or mountain, especially between Point Duma and Tuna Canyon, that have been incinerated as many as 8 times since 1930. One of the people that were on the one of the news reports had indicated that their house burned down in years prior, just shortly, a few years ago. They had it all rebuilt. It was all beautiful. They're all happy, and then burnt down again. And Mel Gibson, he's a director. He said the past Malibu fire burned up to his gate and then stopped. But this fire came from the other side and destroyed his home. So it's 6 in one, half a dozen the other. You live in that beautiful area, you're going to get torched.
Yep. And then in the next paragraph, he goes into 1993 in detail. So I'm going to read that one because this was right before Northridge. In other words, stand at the mouth of Malibu Canyon or sleep in the Hotel St. George for any length of time, and you eventually will face the flames. It is a statistical certainty. Ironically, the richest and poorest landscapes in Southern California are comparable in the frequency with which they experience incendiary disaster. This was emphasized tragically in 1993 when a May conflagration at a Westlake tenement that killed 3 mothers and 7 children was followed in late October by 21 wildfires, culminating on November 2nd in the Great Firestorm that forced the evacuation of most of Malibu. So this was like 93, so right before Northridge happened in early 94. So that's pretty crazy.
Right.
But which I think I vaguely remember that. I remember.
And that would be in north. This Malibu's here is southwest of Northridge.
Yeah.
And Northridge is northeast. So it's on that type of line here. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then he talks about how they fought it in 93. But the 2 species of conflagration are inverse images of each other. Defended in 1993 by the largest army of firefighters in American history, wealthy Malibu homeowners benefited as well from an extraordinary range of insurance, land use, and disaster relief subsidies. Yet, as most experts will readily concede, periodic firestorms of this magnitude are inevitable as long as residential development is tolerated in the fire ecology of the Santa Monicas. So then he gives his little blurb on what went on then. But the next section, he goes into super detail on all the big fires that they know about in that area. So he says, from the beginning, fire has defined Malibu in the American imagination. In 2 years before the mass, Richard Henry Dana, I don't know how they say it, described sailing northward from San Pedro to Santa Barbara in 1826 and seeing a vast blaze along the coast of Jose Tapia's Rancho Topanga, Malibu, Sequit.
Yeah.
So I don't know, probably the only people living in that area then in 1826
was old Jose, man. He had a big ranch and it burned down.
Yeah.
It burned down.
So there wouldn't be too many people there then. Despite, or as we shall see, the Spanish prohibition of, well, the Chumash and Tongva, those were the Indian tribes.
The Indian tribes, yeah.
Yeah, annually burning the brush. So he said that they stopped them from doing that or something.
Yes, sir. Yeah, practically burning the brush mountain infernos repeatedly menaced Malibu through the 19th century. During the great land boom of the late 1880s, the entire latifundio was sold at $10 per acre. Boston Brahmin millionaire Frederick Rindge. In this memories, Rindge described the unceasing battles against squatters, rustlers, above all, reoccurring wildfires. The Great Fire of 1903, which raced from Calabasas to the sea in a few hours, incinerated Rindge's dream ranch in Malibu Canyon and forced him to move to Los Angeles, where he died in 1905.
Yeah, because the Kenneth Fire is right next to Calabasas, and then Agora is right on the other side of it.
Yeah, you're learning. From the time of the Tapias, the owner of Rancho Malibu had recognized that the region's extraordinary fire hazard was shaped in large part by the uncanny alignment of its coastal canyons with the annual fire winds from the north, the notorious Santa Anas, which blew primarily between Labor Day and Thanksgiving, just before the first rains, born from high pressure areas from the Great Basin, the Colorado Plateau. The Santa Anas become hot and dry as they descend avalanche-like into southern Cal. The San Fernando Valley acts like a giant bellows, sometimes fanning the Santa Anas to hurricane velocity as they roar seaward through the narrow canyons and rugged defiles of the Santa Barbara or Santa Monica Mountains. Add a spark to a dense, dry vegetation on such an occasion, and the hillsides will explode in uncontrollable wildfire. They spread, and heat of the fire is so intense that firefighters can only attempt to prevent lateral spread of the fire while waiting for the winds to abate and their fuel to diminish. You know, yeah, it's insane. I mean, because when the Santa Anas blow, there's a time in September. I think, what did he got? What's the dates that he said? Some August or whatever, or from early September onward. The Santa Anas kick up, and then they die off. Those are the hot Santa Anas. The Santa Anas that we have right now, those are the cold Santa Anas. They do happen in the winter, and it's dry. And, in January, you can get 80, 90 degrees in Southern Cal. And, but when you get those winds, it blows and it sucks. It just freaking sucks. Less well understood were the old days, the essential dependencies on the dominant vegetation of Santa Monica's. Chamois, chaparral, coastal sage scrub, and live oak woodland. Upon this cycle of wildfire, decades of research, especially at the San Dimas Experimental Forest in the San Gabriels, have given late 20th century science vivid insights into the complex, ultimately beneficial role of fire in recycling nutrients and ensuring seed germination in Southern Cal's various pyrophotic flora. Research has also established that the overwhelming importance of biomass accumulation rather than ignition of frequency and regulating fire destructiveness. As Richard Minnick, the Wild Authority of Chaparral Brush Fire, emphasizes, fuel, not ignitions, cause fire. Fuel, not ignitions, cause fire. You can send an arsonist to Death Valley and he'll never be arrested. A key revelation was the nonlinear relationship between the age structure of the vegetation and the intensity of the fire. Botanists and fire geographers discovered that the probability for intense fire running fire increases dramatically as fuels exceed 20 years of age. Instead, half a century old chaparral, heavily laden with dead mass, is calculated to burn with 50 times more intensity than 20-year-old chaparral. Put another way, an acre of old chaparral is the fuel equivalent of about 75 barrels of crude oil. Expanding these calculations even further, the Great Malibu firestorm could generate the heat of 3 million barrels of burning oil at a temperature of 2,000 degrees. That's pretty insane. So if your canyon hasn't burned in a while, you
better get a bunker and go underground or you're screwed.
Yeah, and they were talking on the news today too, that they were looking at these people's homes. They go, look at all the vegetation all around these houses. They just won't clear it. It's like, well, everybody wants a tree or two, but these people had a whole bunch. Key revelation of the nonlinear relationship between the age structure of vegetation and intensity of fire. I think I just read that. Yeah, I just did. Total fire suppression. Yeah, total fire suppression The official policy of Southern Cal Mountains since 1919 has been a tragic error because it creates enormous stockpiles of fuel. The extreme fires that eventually occur can transform the chemical structure of the soil itself. The volatilization of certain plant chemicals creates water repellent layer on the upper soil. And this layer, by preventing percolation, dramatically accelerates subsequent sheet flooding and erosion. A monomaniacal obsession with managing ignition rather than chaparral accumulation simply makes doomsday like firestorms and great floods that follow them inevitably. That's what I was saying. Wait till the floods. Everybody knows after the fires, the floods come. For generations, after Ryan's death, his widow May struggled to keep the family Shangri-La isolated and intact in the face of state attempts to push highway through his rancho. Like one of the iron-fisted heroines played by Barbara Stanwyck, the so-called Queen of the Malibu, closed the ranch roads in 1917, struck barbed wire across all the perimeter, and posted armed fence riders who, with orders to shoot to kill. In one episode during the 1920s, Ringe cowboys provoked the tense confrontation with deputy sheriffs after driving away a road survey crew at gunpoint. Hysterical newspaper headlines warned, "Assume a war to peaceful Southern California."
So the cowboys and the ranchers didn't like the city people. Even back then.
City people want to push a highway through there. And they're saying, "No, it's my ranch." But the pressure during the 1920s boom to open the coastal ranges to speculative subdivisions was unrelenting. In the hyperbole of the era, occupants of the mountains became Los Angeles' manifest destiny. Oh boy. The day for the white invasion of the Santa Monicas has come, declared real estate clairvoyant John Russell McCarthy in a booklet published by the Los Angeles Times in 1925. In anticipation of the land rush, the county sheriff had been arresting every vagrant in sight and putting them to work on chain gangs, building roads through the rugged canyons just south of Rancho Malibu. Radical critics of the time denounced the system as deliberate real estate graft meant only to enhance land values in mountain districts, which the population of the city does not even know exists.
So it's funny because he talks about how they made the Pacific Coast Highway in 1928. So this is like crazy.
Well, yeah, it's the beginning of it all, right?
All this stuff is wild, right?
Yeah, making California, California. Widow Ridge, in any event, would not allow to be stand by the way in march of adventuring Caucasians, as McCarthy put it. After one of the most protracted legal battles in California history, court granted the state right of way through Rancho Malibu, opened the traffic in 1928. The Pacific Coast Highway gave delighted Angelinos their first view of the magnificent Malibu coast and introduced the potent new source of ignition, the automobile, into inflammable landscape. This guy's a good writer.
Yeah, he's good. I like all the detail because he's putting all the stuff in there. Who they thought what started the fire and everything.
The indefatigable May Ryan continued to fight the road builders and developers in the courts, but at the end, the cost of litigation forced her to lease choice parts of Malibu beachfront to movie colony that included Jack Warner, Clara Bow, Dolores Del Rio, and Barbara Stanwyck herself. The colony's unexpected housewarming was a lightning fire. Swift wildfire that destroyed 13 new homes in October of 29. Exactly a year later, walnut pickers in the Thousand Oaks area accidentally ignited another blaze, which quickly grew into one of the greatest conflagrations in Malibu history. The 1930 Decker Canyon
1930
fire
Decker
was the
Canyon.
worst case scenario involving 50-year-old chaparral and the fierce Santa Ana winds. Faced the 5-mile front of towering flames. 1,100 firefighters could do little except save their own lives. Woo, woo, woo. As a
Oh, look how
firestorm,
many they had then.
yeah, 1,100.
1,100.
That's still a lot. As a, I don't know how many do we even
That's what
have
it's
now
now.
in Los Angeles, man. I don't even know. As the firestorm unexpectedly wheeled toward the Pacific Palisades, there was official panic. County Supervisor Wright, his nerves shaken by a visit to the collapsing fire lines, posted 100 patrolmen at the Los Angeles city limits to alert residents for evacuation. Should be fire raging in the Malibu district, get closer, he gasped. Oh, our whole city going go. Ultimately, this apocalypse,
This is like 100 years ago, and everybody's talking about the same thing. Like,
which
I don't
may
get
have
it. Like,
given
how come they
Nathaniel
don't
West
know?
the idea for the burning Los Angeles novel Day of the Locust was avoided. No thanks to human initiative when the fickle Santa Ana abruptly subsided. Hey, Mother Nature wants it to burn, it's going to burn. Why do you think it's made that way? In hindsight, 1930 fire should have provoked a historical debate on the wisdom of opening Malibu to further development. Only a few months before the disaster, Frederick Law Olmsted Jr., the nation's foremost landscape architect and designer of the California State Park system, had come out in favor of public ownership of at least 10,000 acres of the most scenic beach and mountain areas between Topanga and Point Duma. Despite a further series of fires in 1935, 1936, and 1938, which destroyed almost 400 homes in Malibu and Topanga Canyon, public officials stubbornly disregarded the wisdom of Holstein's proposal for a great public domain in the Santa Monica's. That county of Los Angeles, for example, squandered an extraordinary opportunity in 1938 to acquire 17,000 of the bankrupt Rhines estate.
Took a break in 32 so they could have the Olympics, but pretty much every other year.
Yeah, since 32, it's just been wiped out, eh? The bankruptcy of the Rhines estate ranged for $1.1 million in delinquent taxes at mere $64 per acre. It would have been the deal of the century, but they missed out on that opportunity. Instead, in December 40, the impetuous and heartbroken May Rhine was forced to put her entire empire on the auction block. Potential buyers were advised to make an early selection of oceanfront lots, sites and villas, hotels, golf clubs, estates and beach and yacht clubs, income and business lots, small summer job places, ranchitos, 100 to 640 acres, ranches, and acreage for further subdivision. The disconsolate queen of the Malibu died 2 months later of heartbrokenness. During the Second World War, several drought years, the West Coast, hundreds of fire watchers were sent into the Southern California mountains to guard against rumor access saboteurs. A few months after the watchers withdrawn, 150 Malibu homes were incinerated in November fire. Yet, this is during World War II. Yet this new disaster failed to discourage a post-war migration of artists, printers, book dealers, poets, screenwriters, architects, including Olmsted himself. Many of the very modest means, some seeking to escape the scrutiny of McCarthyism, who envisioned Malibu as a Carmel South. In an engaging memoir of the period, UCLA librarian Lawrence Clark Powell described a genial way of life devoted to Mozart and beachcombing. He also provided classic accounts of the onslaught of terrible firestorm of Christmas week, 1956, which burned its way to the sea, rejected the path of the 1930 blaze.
And the 1931, he said, went through the Palisades too. So I don't know why people don't understand what this is doing. Like, I don't get it.
Hey,
How can you
you're not
live there
supposed to
and not
live
know
there.
that?
This is a great
Whatever.
article. Yeah, this is a really good
Unless
article.
you have a house made out of asbestos in a bunker, I don't know how you're gonna
You know
survive
that
there.
stone, the ones that were made of stone, only the ones that had stone walls. That's what it's only lit, staying there. These fires are so intense. The one guy says, "Oh yeah, I have a fire safe, so I'm not too worried." So I showed up the next day after the fire had gone through, went into my safe, and guess what? It was gone. The fire safe was there. I opened it up, and everything in it was torched. So fire safes don't count, don't work. No, they have a
Well, if
lifespan,
it's,
2 to 4
if it's
hours.
getting
in
to
one of those.
2,000 degrees for the fire, it's not
Yeah, but
gonna
you
matter.
can't get. I mean, you can probably get one somewhere. Most of the fire safes that you can buy on the market, they're only good 2 to 4 hours. They're not good for no 8, 10, 12, 15 hours when it's, 3,000 degrees. Come on. Yeah, that's just crazy.
Well, down here a little bit farther, he gets into the science of the actual fires. It's pretty nuts. And what they've used the studies of the fires there for, he's going to get into that here in a little bit. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is a great article, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead. It's long-reads.com/2018/12/04-the-Malibu-burn/. That's the location of it. And, read that article. This is it's a very good article. Good read. Good. It was good. Yeah, it was a good read. We don't need to prolong this anymore. It's already an hour and 47. And we didn't really cover much, but it's a
Yeah, because I just want to say about the next section there, because I thought
Go
it was
ahead, brother.
amazing.
Go ahead.
Because from the 56 fire, they took the studies from that, and Eisenhower found out about it. So he was interested in it. And he said, we're going to take the studies that we have from those Malibu fires, and we're going to figure out how they work and like how fast they burn. And he said, we're going to compare them to the firestorm after a nuclear blast. So they took these studies from the 50s and used them to figure out how the nuclear blasts work, like when they make the firestorm that comes out from it. So it's actually based on studies they used from the Malibu fires by how fast they moved and burned and how fast it went out from wherever the source was. So I thought that was freaking nuts.
Well, most definitely.
For nuke stuff. Because it moves so fast, right? And it's so intense at such high temperatures and all that. It's just like what a nuke explosion does. So like this friggin' article, when I found it today, I was like, I couldn't even get through the whole thing because it was just
it was really well. It's well written. Oh my God!
And going down and he explains like the population, like at each interval, like the population of Malibu area, how it went up, and how there was like hardly anybody there, like say 1900 compared to what it is now. And he just kept going, like listing a bunch of these years about what the population was and what they built there. And basically his conclusion by the end of this, as long as they keep building that place up and adding more people, they're just going to keep burning more stuff up and burning up more people. That's basically what he concludes by the end of this.
The only one
so that's
the bankers, right?
Yeah. And that's why he says that there shouldn't even be very little stuff in that area because it's way too dangerous. That's what his conclusion is at the end. So it's freaking nuts. Because he said if you keep spending money and keep putting people there, he said you're just going to keep putting more people in danger. That's basically what he says.
Right.
And I think this original article was way back, but whoever this guy in 2018 added like a bunch of other stuff to it. So it's nuts. Because most of the stuff that's in there goes like to the 1990s. That's as far as what's in the article. But he goes back for like 100 well, actually more than 100 years, because he has stuff from 1826 in there. So I just thought it was nuts.
I think this is the largest fire. Right. I mean, the fires are happening today. I think these are the largest fires.
No, they're still going, so they're going to end up as
right. This is the evacuation, right? 405's on this far end here, and the up here is the reservoir. It's the yellow is the you're on watch. All the pink is get out, because you'll get killed. And it's over 11 people died. And they have not done a full tally of the area. I think more people are going to come out. I think there's 5 or 6 just in the Palisade area. Then on that other side, which this doesn't show, the other side is where it moved eastward. I was looking for a full. They're just talking about the weather. Yeah, this is the
and the guy that is doing this at the end. He compares it to Paradise because it was 2018, and he talks about the roads and how there's only one way out because it's the Pacific Coast.
Yeah, a lot of this area only has one way in and one way out. Yeah.
So he compares it to what happened in Paradise and says that this place is a major disaster waiting to happen. So this was 7 years ago, because he wrote this article because of the 40-year anniversary of the 1978 firestorm. That's what this was about.
Right. So
I think he took excerpts from this other guy and then talked about it, that wrote it.
Right. This is from Fox. You can see it. Here's Mandeville Canyon, and this is the Water Pole Road. 405 is just right here next to it. You know, it's still just. I don't have any sound on it. It goes down one canyon, up the next canyon, and
so I don't know what year they built the 405.
Oh my gosh, a long time ago. I was a little kid. That guy's anyway. Yeah, the governor of California, he's a putz. You know, he's got to stop spending all that money on gel and start spending money on firefighters.
Well, the way the winds are coming the next 4 days, it may be all the way into LA by then.
It may jump to 405, but there's some really hot spots you can see right here. It's very dry in those canyons. You know, there's chaparral. I mean, we got chaparral here too. But with the winds, there's the big plane. He was dumping the fire retardant. These guys are amazing. And that fire retardant works too. Yeah. But
Flutterby someone said the Santa Anas were once called Santanas. Well, of course, because California was Spanish, then Mexican.
Well, they say it with a slang, Santana. It's Santa Ana, you know, and it depends on how you hear it, right? Slang. There's a lot of slang in Spanish. Looking at Southern Cal, earthquakes right now, not a lot, which is okay. Hey, please, we don't need it. I got a kid down there. And this is from California Seismograph, if you ever want to see this. If you don't have this link, I'm going to post it for you over there in chat. So if you ever wanted to watch that. Sometimes. Yeah. Well, eye-opening article. Yeah, it's an incredible article. Yeah. Thank you, Canuck, for sharing that with us this evening.
Yeah,
One,
so I
two.
found all that stuff in like 2 hours.
Yeah, really good info.
Well,
I go to one.
appreciate you. Luke, is there anything that really piqued your interest this evening? Because we were talking about earlier, you and I, and we said, well, let's not talk because we'll just save it for the rabbit hole. You know, there was some conversation that we were going to have, and then it was like, forget it now.
Yeah.
You forget it too, or
yeah, I don't really remember. It's amazing what you can all tie together, in certain areas, certain years. Not saying that they all happen in the same order all the time, but it's kind of mind opening and mind blowing all at the same time.
yeah.
Well, I just don't understand why all these government people don't know about this. You'd think there'd be, if
they
I
know
can
about
find
it, they just
read
don't give a shit. Sorry, Patrick. They know about it. They all know about it. They're told
And
all the time.
all of them are talking about the same problems.
I don't know where the city mayor came from. I don't know if she's I know she's a self-proclaimed communist, and she was going to Africa because she's very big in Africa. She got her Africa thing. I don't understand what the hell that's got to do with running the city. I mean, obviously somebody put her in power. I do not think that Angelino's put her in power.
Is there lots of people that
the woke? See, people are afraid of the woke.
Yeah, for terror. Whoops, I said terrorism. I meant tourism.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about.
I don't understand why she was going. I don't know why she was going to Ghana. Like, what would that have to do with Los Angeles?
Because she has a vested interest there. LA really doesn't, right? She spent 17 hours on a plane and she came back, didn't have the right words to say. 2 words. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. We have to do better.
Or it's our fault. We need to do better.
Yeah.
Well, Newsom, most of his trips are to China. That's where he goes.
Yeah.
Look it out.
He's another butt ranger. Yeah. He's the reason why people are leaving California in droves. The idea that paying electricity tax every month is offensive. Electricity's high enough.
Yes, exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say.
And Obama's big deal was, oh, you're going to pay a little more money. Screw you. You know how hard it is to buy. I mean, shoot. I work. It's like I got them on sale at $6.99 a pound. The steaks, and I'm not getting the most expensive steak either. But I bought 4 or 5 steaks frozen with a little sealer thing. But that's like $60 for 6 steaks. That's 6 weeks.
Well, the reason why everything's so expensive here in Canada now is the carbon tax, because it's on like everything that has anything to do with energy or fuel, which is basically everything, because that's how you transport stuff from point A to point B.
I'd tell Trudeau here, pull my finger, but he might get turned on by it because I know him. He's another butt ranger. Did his wife actually leave him? I think so.
Oh yeah, supposedly.
That place up there. Oh my! It's It's what's endemic in all of these broken down cities because they focus on ethereal stuff rather than the stuff that needs, like, hey, you need this much money to do this, you need this much money to do that. These are the basis. If you had enough money for the arts and stuff, that's up and above. But you got police officers, you've got sanitation, you've got, firemen, and you got hospitals. These are the things that are important. Cutting little kids' peckers off, that's not important.
You can't cut emergency service funding, period. Because when you do, shit like this happens. What happened in California?
Well, they know not to live in the damn canyon. In the story, we just read an article that it burns all the time. And if they are going to live in the canyon, then why don't there was a huge tax base there before. It's gone.
Yep.
There's no more tax money coming into Los Angeles. Do you think they're tight money before? Oh my gosh. They just lost 5,000 homes in one area, which is the highest tax district in all the, around. And guess what? That money ain't coming in.
Nope.
So what's going to happen? Oh yeah, police are going to be fired. Firemen are going to be fired. Ambulances are not going. The hospitals are going to close. Why? Because there's no money. There's no tax base. You have
on the equipment will go down too.
What is that phrase? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. If they would have managed these canyons better,
Yes.
And it's all the underbrush. It's the underbrush it's devastating. And you get that chaparral that's 20 and 30 years old. Oh, what's coming. And the Santa Anas are every year. They don't stop. Generally, the fires start about August and they continued all the way through October. Then they'll kick up again in January. That's the cycle every year. And then the floods start happening in April, when the rains come, It's just, and then the mud flows, and then the avalanches, and then the earthquakes. Shit. For a city that's, it's up and mighty, but oh my gosh. These areas, Mel Gibson's place, I saw it. He was taking video of it. It was beautiful, his view. But it looked down a canyon out to sea. It's all gone, dude. It's just all gone. Yep. And he's like, comme ci, comme ça. I got out a couple of papers, that were important. That's it. But at least my family is safe.
Right.
But all the memories and all the pictures are gone. All these, the history, That's what it means. Don't get none on you. Plan ahead. Try. Because life is going to get on you. Life is messy. Don't get none on you. It means plan ahead. That's what we have JSL. We try to give you all this information so that you as a listener or you as a viewer are pushed a little bit into doing something. Start small. Buy a couple of cans of, raviolis. They'll last forever. But they'll feed you when you need it. SpaghettiOs or whatever. It's terrible food, but you won't starve when it hits the shan. And I bought 4 months of food for my family of 4 in 2014. It's 10 years old now. I didn't get to use it. I got to start eating it and filling the next one in, recycling it through. Once you get up your 4 to 6 months of food in there, you got to do that. And Water is super important. Filters, water filters, because water, electricity comes off, it's all stagnant. You better have the little pills and then heating it up. You need a heat source. No electricity. You're not going to have water pumps to your house.
Nope.
Your shit's going to stay in the toilet because it ain't going to go anywhere. There's no water flowing because the pumps aren't working. So you better figure it out. You got to have a plan. That's what these fires are all about. Now, what's the underlying things with these fires? Hey, even the people on the news was saying, wouldn't it be a bitch if an earthquake just happened? It was on the news. The news anchors were saying this. Yeah. What would happen if they got another 6.7?
Or
Devastating.
7.5.
Yeah, very rare for Los Angeles. 6.7 is the biggest. Outside of the greater Los Angeles, we'll get the 7s. They don't mean they can't get them.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If that was to happen now, while all of this is going on,
if Sylmar or had another quake like 1971 or Northridge, what was that, 1994? The Whittier quake, all of these larger quakes that happen in the greater Los Angeles area, if that happened again, what would you do? If the San Andreas decided to rip on a 7.3 or a 7.5 like it did in Tehachapi up there in Cholome,
right.
Cholome up there, Santa Barbara area, or what is that? Bakersfield, north of Bakersfield or west of Bakersfield. Not good. That rip did 200 feet, or was it, what did we say, 56 feet the other night, right? That thing ripped 56 feet. The whole land moved 66 feet or 56 feet. Hey, that's like you're taking a dump in your house, and then your house moved. Now your toilet's where your neighbor's toilet is. That's pretty bad.
Yep.
Be kind of good if you ran out of toilet paper, but he had some. But hey, never know. The stuff happens, man. But earthquakes are scary. Generally don't kill people. Buildings kill people. And poor construction, poor planning makes people stress, have heart attacks. Having a will, having documentation printed as well as on disc in a Mylar bag. Plan ahead for an inevitable of anything, because like these fires, like all the earthquakes that we bring up all the time, shit happens, and don't let it get on you. Well, with that, you have anything you want to add, Canuck, on a closing? No.
Just so there's been big quakes in California in January, so that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah. Fleur has a theory out there, but she's talking. That's interesting. We'll have to find out some more before I repeat that, but that'll be interesting. Well, thank you, Canuck. Thank you, Luke, for hanging out on a Saturday evening. I know you don't have to, but I appreciate you. And we'll see each other on Thursday. We'll see you Thursday as well. Love you. Take care of yourself. And remember, don't get none on you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Well, that was a good one.